My name is Dorothy. I am 21 years old, but I will tell you about what happened 2 years ago. What are you willing to do for your dream? Watch this video. I will tell you how, for the sake of a happy future, I became a girlfriend of 375 guys at once. I worked in the land of Oz. Everyone already laughed about it. This is just a hardware store. We sold everything from bicycle locks to refrigerators. Of course, this was not a dream job, but when I worked here, I could save a little money every week, and if everything went as planned, I'd have enough for my first semester of college. And if I got the highest marks after the first semester, I could get a grant and study further without thinking about money. I vowed to be an oncologist at my dad's funeral. He died of cancer, and I've been lonely ever since. I smiled at the customers, listening to the joke, "Dorothy, where's your scarecrow?" for the 100th time, and explaining the difference between all the phone chargers we sold. In April, I suddenly became Employee of the Month. This was very cool. Of course, not the photo at the entrance, but the fact that I received a good bonus and was able to pay for the first semester at the university's medical college. I was one step closer to my dream. The university seemed to me a magical country where the mind and desire to learn were valued, not money. I studied with guys and girls who came in cool cars, but they didn't think I was beneath them. What was or will be your first day of college? Share your dreams or your memories in the comments. We drank coffee together after school, prepared for tests, and chatted about little things. I started getting invited to parties. At first, I refused. My studies were more important. Then I thought that if I relaxed a little after the lectures, nothing terrible would happen. The professors liked me, and I thought I was very purposeful. I noticed that at parties, guys were willing to meet me even though I was not the prettiest girl there. I asked one of them what was wrong. He hesitated and replied that I, unlike others, was very natural. What did he mean by that? Didn't I have enough makeup? One of the guys persuaded me to start a video blog so I could tell what I saw around me, what was new to me, what was not clear, such a diary about life. Suddenly, a lot of people signed up for me. I didn't expect so many people to want to know what our cafeteria food was, why plumbers didn't like dorms, and what the campus looked like at 7 in the morning. Meanwhile, my studies were becoming more difficult. I was down on average marks. However, all my new friends studied the same way, if not worse. But they didn't need grants. Our biology professor called me to her and asked me to come to my senses. Otherwise, I wouldn't get a grant. I tried very hard to become the best in all subjects again, but it was too difficult. I was constantly called to hang out. It was very difficult to say no. I told myself every time, this is the last wild night, then just study, and each time was not the last. Once, we were walking with the girls through the shopping center. They went to buy dresses for the party, and I just wanted to keep them company. Suddenly, a guy I'd never seen before popped out of the boutique. He asked if I was Dorothy, who ran the video blog. I replied that it was me. He asked if I was telling the truth when I said I wanted a belt from this boutique. I did mention it, so I nodded my head. He ran into the boutique, but then came back and handed me the same belt. I said I didn't have any money, but he said it was a gift. He was happy to please me, and in return, he wanted me to mention his name in my video blog. I agreed, and in the next release, I thanked Sid Jones for the cool belt. And then it started. When I mentioned in my blog that I wanted something, someone gave it to me. I received gifts every day, and every day I thanked the givers. I was so engrossed in the story of gifts that the end of the semester was a sudden surprise for me. Not pleasant. My marks were so-so. I don't think it was just because I had given up on my studies. Some of the professors seemed to have graded me lower than I deserved. Someone judged me for the gifts, and someone was just jealous. But there was no hope for a grant. Goodbye, university. Hello, land of Oz. I was packing when I got a message. Some guy wrote that he was ready to send me money and wanted me to become his girlfriend. What did he take me for? I was furious. I wrote him everything I thought about these types of earnings. But the guy said that I misunderstood him. He didn't mean anything by it. I just needed to say in the new video that I had a boyfriend. His name was Leo Katz, and he would immediately transfer the money to my account. He wrote that he was the only guy in our college without a relationship, and everyone laughed at him. Do your friends also believe that not being in a relationship means being a failure? Write in the comments. I didn't care. Anyway, my video blog would end soon. I couldn't tell how I sold refrigerators and juicers. And I agreed, and this Leo actually transferred money to me. The video about my relationship with Leo got a lot of comments. A lot of guys wrote to me to leave this loser and start a relationship with them. I was very ashamed. Leo texted me again. He said it was a great opportunity to make some money. He would write to a couple of guys in a personal message saying, "Offer Dorothy money and she will declare you her boyfriend." I thought it was a stupid idea, but it was a chance. Last chance to stay in college for at least another semester. And you know, Leo's idea worked. The next guy paid twice as much as Leo. The third paid 5 times more. I was saving money, and I felt that my goal was getting closer. The face of my next virtual boyfriend was very familiar. I met him at the parties of the rich boys and girls of our college. He agreed to my terms. The amount was such that I even hinted in the video that I was almost engaged to him. I understood that for him, such money was nothing. His mummy could give him out more for ice cream. In addition, he made a great ad for me, telling his friends how to make me declare my love in my video. There was a whole line of rich boys waiting for me. First only from our college, and then from all over the city. Although I was queen of the internet, in real life, behind my back, I heard whispering. And from those same rich boys who arranged auctions for the right to become my boyfriend. I met a girl from the group once. She told me that the boys thought I was a village idiot who thought I was a star. About the guy who appeared on my channel, they said, visited the hayloft. The girl said I was a disgrace, but I felt like I was buying my dream with their money. If I couldn't get a grant because of the rich boys, let them pay for my education. So I finally got enough money to finish my studies. I calculated that I declared 357 people as my boyfriends. And I released the last video. In it, I told the whole story. I started with why I needed to become an oncologist, how I wished people would stop dying from cancer. Then, I told how hard it was to raise money for university if you didn't have rich parents, and how those whose parents easily paid for their studies did not appreciate what was given to them, and how I lost my way, preferring hanging out to serious study, and how my friends seemed to be laughing behind my back because I couldn't afford expensive clothes and entertainment, and how I decided to raise money for studies from those who were more fortunate than me. I gave all the names and all the sums received. I thanked everyone. I said that when I become a doctor and save people's lives, every life saved would have their contribution, that any situation could be changed for the better and do a good thing. When my video got 10 million likes, I closed the channel. The biology professor called me back. She said she saw the video. She admitted that she thought I was a girl with only guys on her mind, but now she knew I was different, and that I would definitely achieve my goal. I am now in my 3rd year. I'm the best student in medical school, and if I don't give up on my studies, I have a degree grant waiting for me. But there are still rumors on campus about a girl who had 375 boyfriends. However, no one knows that that girl is me. Put a like if you like my story. Subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot more interesting things here. Click the bell icon to avoid missing anything. And let your dreams come true without sacrifice on your part.
Hi, I'm Karina, and I'm 13 years old. Have you ever thought that you lived a tough life? That you don't deserve such trials and tribulations? That you have too much going on right now? I know that. Watch this video to the end and find out how I had to pretend to be mute to survive. I grew up in the ghetto. Our district had no funding. The government took all the money for itself, and the ordinary people lived slightly worse than poor. For example, my family was supported by alms. I've known since I was 3 what it was like to walk with my hand outstretched. Even as a child, I was given a legend. I was passed off as a mute to arouse people's pity. Naturally, it worked. At first, I was shy about pretending, but then I got used to it. One day, a guy on the street noticed me. He tried to communicate with me by gestures. I didn't understand what he wanted from me. Could he be ill? But I couldn't leave my workplace. In the end, he just wrote a note and left. I read it in the evening. Hi, my name is Hugh. My brother is an activist for the rights of the poor. Do you want me to introduce you to him? Would you talk to someone who promised to get you out of trouble? There are too many crooks in this world to be trusted, I know that. But on the other hand, sometimes you want to believe in the best, right? I threw the paper away and tried not to think about it again. Once we had journalists come to the ghetto, my mother hoped that they would help us crawl out of this hole and gave a big interview. And then the episode with us was simply cut out and they made it look like there were no beggars in our city at all. Therefore, I did not believe in such activists. Everyone only cares about themselves. However, Hugh appeared the next day, and the next, and the next. He talked to me, asked if I knew sign language, tried to teach me. He said that his brother couldn't do it right now, that I would have to wait a little longer, and then he would come with his entire film crew. I didn't care about his brother, but it was the first time I had a friend from outside the ghetto who cared about me. I wrote to him on a piece of paper that my family was very poor, that our neighborhood was poor and dangerous, that I never went to school because we simply did not have the opportunity. Hugh brought food and candy, and so, thanks to him, I first learned the taste of chocolate. It was just like, I don't have the words. I ate it all by myself without sharing it with my sister. I liked talking to Hugh, mostly because of the food, yes, I won't lie, but not only that. And I had no idea that he remembered his promise. The next day, when I was supposed to go to work, I saw a TV van on the street. My mother and Gertrude followed me out. They also wanted to watch the shooting. I saw Hugh among the camera crew. He also noticed me, was happy, and brought a young man to us. "This is my brother," said Hugh. "Please tell him how you live." Would you lie to get help? Would you cheat for money? I had been lying all my life, and I had already taught myself that this was normal. But now I was as shy as I had been as a kid. Was I afraid of the cameras? Who knew? In short, I was ready to sink through the ground. Then my mother came forward and began to talk about our hard life, about the lack of money, about the fact that we did not go to school, and about the fact that her eldest daughter, me, was mute. I wanted to stop her, but I just couldn't bring myself to speak. After the group left, I asked my mother why she did it, because she, like me, did not believe in television. "Well, we must hope for the best," she told me. And this time, she was not mistaken. The report was shown, though not on TV, but somewhere on the internet. It became very popular, so much so that I was even recognized on the street. A charity account was opened in the name of our family, and we even had money. My mother was happy, and I was terrified. I felt even more ashamed than when I collected alms as a child. I suddenly realized clearly that I was deceiving people and that because of this deception, we were taking money from them. And I would have to keep pretending that I was not talking, maybe even for the rest of my life. I just didn't know what to do. Tell the truth? But we had only just had the opportunity to eat our fill and even buy clothes. I couldn't deprive my mother and Gertrude of the opportunity to live a normal life. But I would give myself away one day. And then what? I decided to take a terrible, desperate step. I decided that I needed to stop lying and at the same time help my family preserve their prosperity. I should have made myself truly mute. But I couldn't. Not because I didn't make up my mind, no. In fact, I was already so depressed that I didn't doubt my decision at all. My mother appeared in the bathroom and started yelling at me. "What are you doing? Stop!" And she snatched the scissors from me. I burst into tears. She tried to calm me down and I ran away from home. To walk, to exhale, to calm down, to make a decision. This helped a little. I eventually came to the conclusion that I had made a fool of myself and I should just wait for the hype to pass. They wouldn't be hurting us all the time, would they? People's attention quickly fades and it was just necessary to buy time. Calming down, I came home and saw a crowd in front of the entrance. Some men in uniform, thank the gods not a police uniform, were knocking on the door. Then they saw me, grabbed me, tried to drag me to the car, trying to calm me down along the way. This, on the contrary, only scared me. I broke away and ran around the back of the house to get in through the window. At home, I met Gertrude crying. What happened? Gertrude, sobbing, told me everything. She was very scared when there was a scandal between my mother and me. Unfortunately, Hugh was not far away. She ran to him for some reason, thinking that I would hide with him. She told him about my fight with my mother. And Hugh... oh, he thought that my mother was using me and tormenting me. Damn. I got mad at my sister and yelled, "Who asked you to do this?" Gertrude started crying even more, and I was wondering what to do. Hugh brought in social services, and now everyone thought that Mom was a family tyrant. Crowds of journalists would flow. Maybe the police would arrive. It had to come, since the daughter almost hurt herself because of her mother. Oh gods, why did this happen? I didn't mean to. Okay, there was no use crying over spilt milk. There was only one way out of the situation, and I had to decide on it. I called Hugh's number from my mother's phone. Yes, I called, not texted. I decided to put an end to this. To say that Hugh was startled was to say nothing. I apologized and asked if I could meet him and talk to him. He agreed. He also brought his brother to the meeting. I let them in through the window and told them the truth. Finally, I said that my mother never made me feel bad. She asked me to lie just so we could survive. Hugh was silent all this time, and I couldn't even look in his direction. I was very ashamed of lying to him. But his brother didn't seem to be offended at all. He just said that we should think about how to make the story public so that we didn't look like crooks. Hugh didn't say anything, or even say goodbye when they left our house. I wasn't surprised. I understood his feeling too well, and it only hurt me to lose such a friend. My mother wasn't arrested. Hugh's brother created another film about our family. It was very difficult to persuade my mother to tell the truth. She was still very afraid of journalists and did not believe that we could be helped selflessly, not out of pity for a disabled child. The film was released with the title Karina's Lie. The documentary story about a girl who lied to other people to save her family became even more popular than the previous film, and for some reason, we even began to get alms even more than before. However, I read various comments on the internet where we were called scammers. Well, I understood why they thought so. After the premiere, Hugh suddenly met me. We took a long walk down our poor trash alley and talked. He admitted that he was offended with me, but now he understood why I did it. All he asked was that I never did it again, and I agreed with him. I realized that I actually had a voice. Instead of taking it away from me, adjusting to an unfair life, I can use it and bring the truth to people. But it's also important to have fun, isn't it? So subscribe to our channel, or maybe you have interesting true stories yourself.
Well, we will be happy to hear them.
Hi, my name is Darcy. I'm 20 years old. Did your boyfriend offer to make love without protection? After all, if this is true love, you need to trust each other even in such things. Watch the video to the end and find out how I had sex without a condom and how bad it turned out to be. One day, my friends invited me to a party to unwind. I worked hard and did not rest at all. Honestly, noisy parties never gave me joy, but I still decided to go. I didn't plan to meet any men, but one of them came up to me. Wilson was damn good looking, well dressed, and had the right body type. He asked me to dance, but I refused. Honestly, I didn't even know how to dance, and I didn't really want to embarrass all my friends. Then Wilson suggested that we had a drink or two at the bar. I refused again since I did not drink alcohol at all, whatsoever. He looked so ambiguously at me, like, I'm paying so much attention to you here and you're giving me the cold shoulder. Wilson was too pushy and egoistic, and I already regretted that I had responded to his attention. I was thinking about how to end our communication delicately, and I wished that I had installed the false call app on my smartphone. When you need to urgently move away, but there is no reason, you can order a call to your phone and go out as if you're talking to someone. You say, "Sorry, I have to take this. I'll just step out." How do you avoid unwanted communication? Share your experience in the comments. Then, suddenly he invited me to his place. Like, let's go for a walk and come to my place for a cup of tea. No way. I know what a cup of tea means. I said I wouldn't go anywhere because I've known him only for a couple of hours. Wilson's manner changed abruptly, and he started shouting that he was paying so much attention to me and he got nothing in return. This was followed by outright insults. I was confused and I didn't know what to do. The worst thing was that everyone around me didn't seem to care. Wilson had been drinking heavily and was no longer in control. Aiden appeared out of nowhere. Without a word, he took him by the scruff of the neck and led him somewhere. In this very moment, the guests of the party started paying attention to what was happening. No, there was no fight. Aiden just talked to him, and he didn't bother me anymore. I spent the rest of the evening with my protector. He was interesting to talk to. Time flew by, and shortly before the party ended, he asked me to slow dance. Remember my reluctance to be shamed? At that moment, I didn't even remember about it and gladly agreed. But we danced really well. What a pity that the song ended so quickly. But then Aiden asked for my number and I gave it to him. From the next day, we began to actively text and chat on the phone until 3 in the morning. We often walked in the evenings and even ran in the park. However, this was his favorite activity and I only pretended that I adored running. One night, he called and told me to come out. Aiden was unsure, his speech faltering, and he was a little nervous. He said that I stole his heart and that he couldn't think of anyone else, and then he put a locket on me in the shape of a stolen heart and asked me to date him. Of course, I agreed. We spent most of our free time together and didn't get enough of it. No quarrels or misunderstandings. Everything was just perfect. We did have an argument once, though. One night, we were watching a romantic movie, and Aiden allowed himself to go too far. We kissed for a long time, and then he threw me on the sofa and began to undress. I said it was too early and that I didn't want to do this, but he didn't hear me and went on. Then nothing happened, but I said that this behavior was unacceptable, and if he wanted to be with me, he had to listen to me and respect me. Aiden was a real sweetheart. He was so worried about what he had done that the next day he came with a huge bouquet of roses and a teddy bear. Of course, all misunderstandings were removed and forgotten forever. And yes, very soon after that, we had our first sex. We constantly talked about trusting each other, how important it was, and that we were just fine with it. It's true. I trusted Aiden in everything, but I didn't think the next thing would happen. During another romantic evening, when we were both in bed and it was getting close to the most interesting part, he wasn't wearing a condom. I asked him not to do it without protection. He said that if I believed him, I should believe in everything. Anyway, I gave in and agreed. What would you have done in my place? Interrupted the act and insisted? Tell me in the comments. Anyway, I wanted to have a serious conversation with Aiden about this as soon as possible. I called him the next day, and he said that he left to see relatives for a month. I got really mad. Why didn't he tell me earlier? Why did it happen like this yesterday? He also freaked out and hung up. I was left alone with my thoughts. Or maybe he didn't go anywhere, but just stupidly left me. Or maybe he initially wanted to sleep with me without a condom, and when he got his way, he disappeared. It turned out that I was wrong to trust him and fell for the stolen heart and all his nonsense. He called me first a couple of hours later and told me not to worry about anything. He really needed to leave, promised that he would return and everything would be even better than before. I counted down the days until we met, texted every day, and everything was fine. Suddenly, 2 weeks later, I had an inexplicable pain in the lower abdomen. There was unhealthy discharge and peeing became very uncomfortable and, frankly, painful. I went to a therapist, but he redirected me to a gynecologist. The doctor was a man and it was very unpleasant. I was terribly shy. I couldn't relax. The doctor began to ask some strange questions. How often do you change partners? Whether you have had sexually transmitted diseases before, and so on. I flushed with indignation and said, "Who do you take me for?" He apologized, but still said something about the importance of being honest with the doctor. And I didn't lie to him. I considered such insinuations humiliating and rude. Can you imagine what I went through? The doctor examined me and took a swab. A day later, I got the result. Chlamydia! When I asked what it was and how I got it, he said that my partner infected me, and all thanks to unprotected sex. He prescribed a course of treatment and sent me away. Imagine sleeping with someone without a condom for the first time and getting into so much trouble. I immediately called Aiden in the hope of getting support, but instead he said that it was not his problem and that it was still unknown who infected whom and who I was simultaneously dating and sleeping with. How do you like that? What can I be accused of except that I was too trusting? I didn't expect such coldness and inhumanity. I hung up and didn't want to know him anymore. From that moment on, I didn't return his calls. I was angry, but I missed him. And I was genuinely glad to see him back. We hugged and chatted, forgetting about my illness. But not for long. He asked me suddenly if I was well now. I said yes. Do you think he apologized for anything? Not a bit of it. He suggested that we celebrate with sex. My patience ran out. It was as if the scales fell from my eyes and his true face was revealed. Yes, he did not care about me, my problems, and my health. Fuck him. That's how I told him off. He deserved that. You can forgive chlamydia, but indifference is worse. He spoke of trust, but how could you trust someone you can't rely on? He doesn't care about my health right now, but what happens next? And this despite the fact that he himself is to blame for my illness. At first, it was terribly lonely. There was no question of any new acquaintances. It wasn't easy to forget Aiden, even though I'd blocked all of his contacts, deleted photos and videos and everything that reminded me of him. I've changed my mind so many times, and then I let it go. I decided that I would no longer be drawn to cheap romance and stolen hearts, as well as unprotected sex. I've read so much online, and medical articles, and unfortunate stories. It is better to always protect yourself just in case. How do you like this story? Give us a like, New videos are regularly released on the channel. One is more interesting than the other. Click on the bell icon to avoid missing notifications and take care of your safety.